All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session. Today is December 19th, 2024. Appreciate everyone who's here in attendance as well as those that are with us online. We'll start out with a roll call. Let the record show that all the commissioners are present. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please stand for a brief invocation and pledge. Would bow your heads, please. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for the many blessings of life. We ask for knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this county. Anything that we accomplish will give you the honor and glory. In Christ's name, we do ask and pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any announcements on the board? Any announcements on the board? We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on December 5th, 2024. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers, second by Commissioner Bruce. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next, we have the minutes of the voting session held on December 5th, 2024. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve as is.
Motion by Commissioner Bruce, seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Vote again, please. And that is approved 4-0. We move on to the approval of the agenda. I do have 3 changes to the agenda under new business. The additions 4 through 6, agreement between Dawson County Northeast Georgia Physicians Group concerning use of clinical sites for EMT students, renewal of agreement between Dawson County and Lanier Tech College concerning third riders on ambulances, and an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Dawsonville and Dawson County Board of Elections and Registration relating to the 2025 municipal elections for the City of Dawsonville. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with those 3 changes.
Make a motion to approve with the 3 changes.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers, seconded by Commissioner Bruce. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the agenda is approved with 3 changes. No one signed up for public comment in this section. We'll move on to the consent agenda. First on the consent agenda, we have request for approval of FY 2025 State Public Defender Grant, and then request for approval of FY 25 Public Defender Intergovernmental Agreement between Dawson and Hall County, a resolution for Dawson County Hazardous Mitigation Plan Update 24 through 29, Keep Dawson County Beautiful Executive Director appointment, Aaron Ostendorf, and then board appointments, Development Authority, Jerry Allen, reappointment, term January 2025 through December 28. Tony Passarella, reappointment, term January 2025 through December 2028. And Joint Development Authority, Jerry Allen, reappointment, term January 2025 through December 2028. And that is your consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Dooley, seconded by Commissioner Stowers. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the consent agenda is approved 4-0. We move on to alcohol license. With new alcohol license, retail package sale of malt beverages and wine, Nelson Food Mart, 25 Beartooth Parkway, Dawsonville, Georgia, 30534.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Nelson Food Mart, LLC, 25 Beartooth Parkway, Dawsonville, Georgia, 30534, has applied for the issuance of a new license to sell beer and wine for retail package at the same location. They have complied with all the necessary regulatory requirements by submitting both state and county documents, and their licensee has passed the criminal history check. The owner, Nelson Swamy, was regrettably not able to be in attendance tonight due to a recent sickness, but he did want to be here. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Is this a new location, new storefront, or is this an existing one that's been changed over?
So it's new ownership.
Of an existing location that already
Yes.
had an alcohol.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So they met all the requirements.
They have.
Other questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion that we approve the new alcohol license for Nelson Food Mart, LLC, Nelson Food Mart, 25 Beartooth Parkway, Dawsonville, Georgia.
Motion by Commissioner Stowers,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to the public hearings. We have two public hearings tonight. First one is amended development impact fee ordinance. First of two hearings. The second hearing will be held on January 16th, 2025. Ms. Sharon.
Thank you. Got several moving parts, as you know, to the capital improvements element, updated every 5 years, which then triggers a new amended CIE. And then with that, the development impact fees, and that has to also be cleaned up through ordinance. So in your backup, you should have, I know you have, the ordinance changes, nothing too major in there, and then the draft fee schedule. This is public hearing number 1. Thank you. Again, the several moving parts are the text amendment and the ordinance amendment. Thank you. I was like, I didn't touch it. We're meeting our requirements for public comment with the 2 public hearings, the text amendments in your backup, and the fee schedule, which is still open for discussion, as you know. We are meeting all the state requirements, having the first and second public hearing. Thank you, Kristen. In the ordinance change, although they're not major, it just includes all the minimum state requirements for assessing and collecting fees, the guidance on administering the program, and then ways, if you so choose, that you can look at things on a case-by-case basis. Actually, it's not if you so choose. It is by state law, except for the exemption for economic development programs. We can adopt up to the maximum fees that could be charged, or a lower fee can be adopted. And our target rate was not to present to you the maximum fees, so that's certainly where you guys take over. But we did want to start with less than maximum in the draft report coming to the Board of Commissioners. And this is our prospective numbers, the 2018. If you looked at the ordinance, you will see a 2006 date, and then it was changed in 2018, which was the 2 times it was brought before this board in the past. So that's the 2018 fee, which was not 100% when it was adopted back then. There's the 2024 proposed, and then the 2024 maximum. So you can see the big difference between the maximum and what the staff presented as a draft. And there's the change in fire that is not at 100%, again, as proposed by staff. The county comparisons, it gives you a real surface information, because you would have to dive deeper into every county. Do they have T-SPLOST? Do they have, land prices? There's so many options and criteria you'd have to look at. It's helpful to see just for general knowledge, but there's still a lot of information individually on all those counties, and some of the information is fairly dated. And there is the prospective fee schedule broken down by land use. Certainly, our next step, as I've mentioned, is the second public hearing. And then after that, or at that same second public hearing, we will adopt all these documents and move forward with the new fee schedule. There we go. That's it.
Questions for Sharon?
I have a couple questions. So on the fire, it went down pretty significant from, or not down, it is a lot lower proposed than the maximum fee. And I know ultimately that's to keep the total proposed 24 fee down for impact fees, but, and I see the reasoning for that is because fire and EMS salaries can't be paid out of impact fees.
Correct.
But my thought process is, if we're doing all this stuff for fire and EMS, that we've been discussing about giving bonuses and stuff like that, sign-on bonuses and everything, that money has to come from somewhere. So if we're spending out of general fund to pay those additional salaries or to help get people in here, then we don't need to lower impact fees there, because we're still going to need ambulances and fire trucks and equipment and fire stations and all of that stuff. And I mean, SPLOST will take us so far, but we're still going to need that increase there. So I personally don't agree that we need to lower that. I would recommend potentially lowering the library, since we're getting rid of the satellite office. And we already have money sitting in impact fees to renovate the library. So I would lower library and increase fire. That's my personal opinion.
Certainly tough decisions. We were looking at equity for both the residential and the commercial.
Yeah, so I would try to keep it as close to 55 as possible, but I would still lower library and increase fire. And maybe we can look at, I mean, like you said, hard decision, because you want to be able to give the max to everybody and not charge our residents and commercial the max fee. I totally get that. I just think that if you're looking at those two, the need, I don't know, for the safety of the citizens, to me, is more in fire than library. And that's not to discount library. I still think we need to have impact fees for library, but maybe just not such a lower amount for fire.
Other questions? Thank you. All right, so this time I'll open up the hearing in reference to the amended development impact fee ordinance. Anyone here to speak on the amended development impact fee ordinance? Anyone? Come on up. Please sign in, give us your name and address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I just would like to echo what Ms. Bruce just
Your name,
said.
please.
I'm sorry. My name is Harris, Georgia. I live at 252 Dawson Manor Drive. I'd like to echo what Ms. Bruce said about moving some of the impact fees over to fire and EMS, however you may do that. I see them struggling on a daily basis with the staff, with finding the paramedics that they need. I'd love to see you guys move some type of funds, whether that be from the impact fees or elsewhere, towards finding the paramedics that they need, because I know that's a big struggle within the county. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on the amended development impact fee ordinance? Anyone? Come on up. Oh, okay. All right. Anyone else speak on the amended development impact fee ordinance? Anyone? Please sign in, give us your name and address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Shannon Stanford, and this is an important part of our community, is how it's built and how these impact fees are going to be divided up. So I definitely think that roads as well need to be prioritized, because that seems to be one of the major issues that we're running into out here. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on the amended development impact fee ordinance? Anyone? Okay, seeing none, I'll close that hearing. Second hearing will be held on January the 16th, 2025. We'll move on to our second public hearing. It's a text amendment to amend the language of Chapter 129 sign ordinance. This is the first of two hearings. The second hearing will be held on January 16th, 2025. Ms. Sharon.
Thank you. Changing the code to meet the state law regarding administrative variances, also removing variances from the sign ordinance, and some cleanup. It's been vetted through legal counsel.
Questions for Ms. Sharon? Thank you, ma'am. All right. So at this time, I'll open that hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on the text amendment to amend the language of Chapter 129 sign ordinance? Anyone? All right. Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. The second hearing will be held on January 16th, 2025. Next, we'll move on to zoning. I'll go over the rules for the zoning that we'll go by tonight. The planning director will present the application and recommendation of the planning commission. Then we will hear from the applicant. Then I'll open the hearing. We'll hear from those who are in favor of the application. We'll hear from those who are opposed to the application. Each person wishing to speak will be allotted 3 minutes per our zoning guidelines. Anyone who speaks will need to sign in and give us your name and address. Also, if anyone has donated $250 or more to any candidate, you will need to fill out a form stating so. Tonight, zoning is ZA 2411. Jim King requests a land use amendment to zone 152.44 acres of property currently zoned RA residential agricultural to RS2, residential suburban 2. This property is located at the southeast corner of Georgia 9 North and Dawson Forest Road, Dawsonville parcel ID 098-015. Ms. Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you. The Planning Commission recommended denial at the November Planning Commission meeting regarding this application. I know the staff report has been circulated. The staff was supportive of the request. It meets our future land use, our character map, and our policies in our plan. For just a little background, part of the development strategy when we adopted the new plan and the new character areas is to provide some areas for residential growth. We also, prior to that, went through the land use code, and as you remember, enlarged lot sizes, changed gross density to net, and increase the stream buffers from 25 to 50 feet. So the county has been making pretty good strides in meeting its strategies for our comp plan. The property is below what is the Etowah River there, the dark blue line going through. And what you can see is this property is located within the suburban living category, which is up to 2 units per acre. Dawson, just north of it, the Dawson character area is up to 3 units per acre. It is difficult in Dawson County to get above 3 units per acre. You have to have a mixed-use village or a community plan development, and you need a lot of acreage to accomplish that. So the suburban living is limited to 2 units per acre. Excuse me. The staff did go ahead after spending many weeks reviewing the application and added stipulations to the staff report. So there was many meetings regarding transportation. What's highlighted in yellow is definitely related to transportation directly. The blue is basically we're reminding the developer that the constrained lands cannot be counted for a recreation area. And the green is buffering and recreation for any future residents. But again, the Planning Commission recommended denial. And that's my presentation.
Questions for Ms. Sharon? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present? Come on up. Tell us what you'd like to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jim King. That's 131 Prominence Court, Dawsonville, Georgia. And I'm here tonight to represent the owner of a 152-acre tract at the southeast corner of Dawson Forest Road and Highway 9. Tonight, we are requesting a rezoning from the current agricultural use to a Res 2 classification to create a 280-lot residential subdivision with a gross density of 1.7 units per acre. It has a net density of 2.0 units per acre, which is in conformance with the suburban residential zoning classification that we're looking at, and the character area. As Sharon mentioned, it is in conformance with the county's current land use plan and character area. And I think that's really probably the biggest point I'd like to make here tonight. And to do that, I've created a few slides just to give you a background of the future land use plan and the history of the land use plan and comprehensive plan. So the future land use plan and the comprehensive plan was created by the Georgia General Assembly in 1989. It's known as the Georgia Planning Act. It was used to persuade counties to plan ahead for the future instead of ignoring it, and to be proactive instead of reactive. And the state government uses withholding funding to ensure that the counties adhere to this and do proper planning. So the Georgia Planning Act requires each county to prepare a comprehensive plan, which includes the future land use plan, every 10 years. A lot of metro counties do it every 5 years, as Dawson has done in the past, due to the amount of growth that you see. You want to stay current with it, and it becomes necessary to do it more often. So they've done it every 5 years. But it's a tremendous process. It's a very arduous process, doing a future land use plan. You have to mail out surveys to the citizens who respond back with their input. Public meetings are held. A citizen committee is appointed by the board members. Each one of you appoints, it's either 2 or 3 members to this board. And they work with planning staff and other agencies in the county to develop this future land use plan. So it's a very, very arduous process. Usually takes a year to prepare one of these. And ultimately, the end result is this is considered to be the official map for future land use for every municipality it represents. That's 159 counties across Georgia. Every one of them does this. And this is used, it's not just a map for future land use, it's a living guide. It's used to plan infrastructure and growth for the county. Capital improvements like roads, water and sewer, and schools are all planned using your future land use plan. A very good example of this is the Riverview Elementary and Middle and High School there. I remember during my years as a commissioner early on, the school board bought the land there to build schools. This was in 2005, I think. There was nothing out there. And I asked one of the school board members, I said, why are you building the schools? Why are you buying land to build schools way out here in the middle of nowhere? And they said, because you said that. You said we should. And I said, what? They said, your future land use plan. That's what your future land use plan says, is this Dawson Forest corridor, and this area in here is going to be the hub of future growth. And so we're preparing for that in the future. We're buying land out here to build these schools. Now, 20 years later, the schools are being used, and there's still a site for a new high school here. So it's a prime example of why you should follow your land use plan. Give you a history of some of the land use plans. see. Yeah. In 2005, this is the current, the land use plan that was prepared in 2005. In 2000, when I came on the board, there was another land use plan. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a copy of it, but it had this whole area right here designated as industrial. And I couldn't really understand, I didn't really understand why, but what I was told was because it was, because of the transportation intersects the transportation node and it was far out, so it made a good site for heavy industrial. You can see in 2005, it was designated as commercial. So, and if you will notice, this area is designated as a very intense commercial use, and then nothing along Dawson Forest all the way back to 400. That's because this was a node, a transportation node. 2008, it was changed to mixed use village. And this is a much better use because that encouraged both higher density residential and commercial growth right there in the area as a mixed use plan together. This allowed for a residential density of 2.8 units per acre. 2013 stayed the same, mixed use village. And again, if you'll notice the purple area, this particular node is designated as a high intense use area, and then it feathers out along Dawson Forest until you get back to 400, another high intense use area. It's a node, just like the city of Dawsonville. So it's an area that has always been designated for higher density and higher growth, higher development. 2018, for some reason, this was changed to industrial, light industrial, and I don't know why, but it was. But everything around it was still mixed use village. Again, though, showing that this area, this particular area around this intersection of Highway 9 and Dawson Forest has always been designated as a more intense use until 2023. Not sure, again, what happened. Maybe it's because no commercial growth had taken place over the last 20 years, but it was reduced to suburban residential. Which is RS2. RS2, here's the section out of your comprehensive plan. Suburban living character area shall have a maximum density of 2 dwelling units per net acre. And if you'll notice the examples at the bottom, the photographic examples at the bottom, this is exactly what we are proposing, exactly what's in your comprehensive plan. The other thing I'd like to make note of is there's been a comparison of the densities of this tract compared to the other residential neighborhoods that have been developed in the area. We are proposing a less dense neighborhood than pretty much anything that's been developed in this corridor. If you will look to the far west, that's the Etowah Preserve. Now that carries a gross density of 0.95 units per acre. But under the new net density regulations that y'all implemented last year, which discounts the unusable or the basically unusable land, floodplains and things like that to reduce the overall densities. But if you took a net density calculation on Etowah Preserve, and we actually went back and did the math and calculated the net density for Etowah Preserve is actually 2.2 units per acre. What we are asking for is 2 units per acre with an overall density of 1.7 units per acre. Other developments along the area go as high as 6 units to the acre when you get approximately 2 miles away. So to give you a history of this particular piece of property, In 2020, I had a client approach me to do some planning on this piece of property, and they needed a minimum of 3 units per acre. At that time, 2.8 units per acre was the maximum. But we did a land plan, well, that had 441 lots. They were 50 foot wide at 3 inches, which is 3 inches per acre. That's 40%. Right now, we're 40% less than that. That didn't progress any farther. We were told that that was too high a density for the area at the time, so they walked away. Then in 2021, Piedmont Homes came forth, and we actually submitted a zoning application for mixed-use village at 379 lots, which is 2.5 units per acre, and those were 50 and 60 foot wide lots. Again, we ran into some roadblocks because of the commercial component, which my client couldn't offer at the time. With the mixed-use village, it requires a commercial component. And so we ran into some roadblocks with him being able to build that simultaneously with the residential, and he walked away. 2024, South Vine Homes now proposes 280 lots at 1.7 units per acre. The lots are 85 foot wide. We've not done anything in Dawson County, the new subdivisions in Dawson County in the last 15 years that were any greater than 65 foot. So these are 85 foot wide lots. And this is what the Res 2 ordinance requires, this 85 foot wide lot. So we weren't asking for any variances to reduce the lot size or anything. We have 280 lots. The homes will have side entry garages. It's probably the nicest product we've seen, again, in the last 15 years. This is the site plan with the 85 foot wide lots, 280. So I'd ask you tonight to think about the land use plan, the history of this project, and the fact that it does meet your current land use plan, and it's far less than any previous land use plan or any previous application. And I'd actually consider that, and I'd like to save any time. I would like some rebuttal time if possible. Thank you.
Can we go back to, can we go back to, on your presentation, we had a y'all had a public forum, I think, and the feedback that was received. I think you had a slide in here, but we kind of skipped through it real quick. Yes, let's keep going. There was a couple of talk from your perspective about what the public feedback was when you had a public hearing on it with a hosted community meeting, I guess.
Yes, the main conflict, I think, was the traffic, which is understandable, and the traffic on Goodson Road primarily. We agreed to not have an entrance on Goodson Road. This actually came from the Piedmont input from Piedmont rezoning in 2021. So we actually started out with that with this particular case. Did not include a driveway or an entrance on Goodson Road. The other thing, making our primary entrance on Highway 9. And then there was also some buffers that we agreed to. We agreed to a buffer around the Rogers house, which is the alpaca farm that y'all are familiar with. They just wanted one immediately where their house is, to give them a little buffer. And then there was another one around the Gomes and Fulkerton, I believe, property, which is the far eastern property line. And we can give them a 50-foot buffer there.
What's their green space percentage on this proposal?
Not sure if I have that or not.
And my follow-up question is, what's the green space that was for Etowah Preserve? Percentage?
Oh, it was 100 and... It is about 150 acres.
Well, Etowah Preserve was 150 acres.
Yes.
What's that percentage roughly? What was the total acres?
That's about half.
50%.
Yeah. As you're aware, most of that's on the opposite side of the river.
And then the green space on this project was?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Other questions for the applicant? I saw in your proposal that this was basically a multi-phase proposal where you would have a development phase and then a construction phase and then another development phase, another construction phase. So what's the time frame for build out of something if this was to be approved?
I believe it was 4 years. I don't remember off the top of my head, Mr. Chairman. I did not bring that schedule with me, so. But that's, I would think, a development of this magnitude, probably about 4 years.
Okay. Other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. We may have some more later. All right. So at this time, I'll open the hearing. I'll hear from those who are in favor of the application. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone? Okay. Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? One at a time. We'll start with you. Come on up. Give us your name.
Would you like me to write it again?
Yes, write your name and address down. And then you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, and thank you. I'm Shannon Stanford, and I'd like to present a petition of over 700 signatures in opposition to this rezoning application. I mentioned at the Planning Commission meeting last month that we neighbors have come together using our own time, money, and resources to gather research and signatures on this matter, and we found some major flaws. So concisely, this proposed development does not fit the character area. Per KCI's traffic study, which we didn't see tonight, none of these parcels can be rezoned to suburban living without making, suburban residential, without making major improvements to this relatively new intersection. The 2023 Comprehensive Plan outlines high priority traffic projects slated for completion in the near future that were needed like yesterday. So projects here would undermine and complicate the progress on the Comprehensive Plan's high priority projects in this immediate area, particularly Lumpkin Campground and Dawson Forest and Lumpkin Campground at 53 are obviously more pressing to this community. And by the way, did you notice KCI's schematic functional drawing of that roundabout? It's on page 50 of their study. How do I get to my home off of Goodson Road from Rock Creek Park? So I said it before and I'll say it again that this is poorly planned. I think this application should be tabled so the staff can initiate a review of this area. It's mischaracterized. This area should actually be RA or ES, with the fact that there are so many waterways and wildlife in that area. And also the fact that no other homes or parcels on Goodson Road, on that side of Goodson Road or on Highway 9 are residential suburban, definitely not RS2. So there's no capacity for that density in that intersection as it stands. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So to approve this application would be highly irresponsible, and this application does not foster proactive measures or preservation of our Dawson County values. So without taking too much time, I hope you hear more valuable insight with regard to EMS and fire from Harris, Georgia, education from Linda Mahler, and the spirit of the comprehensive plan by Tiffany, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please sign in, give us your name and address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Harris, Georgia. I'm a Dawson County resident and I've lived here since 2006. My wife and 2 school-age daughters consider Dawson County home now. Let me be clear when I say this, that I am for growth. However, growth and change must be planned and coordinated effectively. Approving this development would be a step backwards for Dawson County. Furthermore, I believe approving this development would have catastrophic consequences. It is no secret that Dawson County Emergency Services has its share of employee shortages. According to a Dawson County News article dated 11/26/24, Dawson County Emergency Services Director Troy Leist said, because of the paramedic shortage, Dawson County Emergency Services is regularly only able to staff 3 ambulances across the county. Let that sink in for just a minute. 3 ambulances. In comparison, Lumpkin County, which is a much smaller county, has 4 ambulances. White County, which contracts their ambulance service out, has a total of 5 ambulances. Why do we only have 3 ambulances? My understanding is 20 years ago, we had the same 3 ambulances. Fire Station number 7 would service this proposed development. According to an open records request, Station 7 has a total of 612 calls in 2023. In 2024, that call volume has more than doubled to 1,226 as of this past Friday. While those calls have more than doubled, our fire service has struggled to hire and retain staff. Most importantly, I've spoken with a number of public safety officials regarding this development and others in the county. The common theme I hear from them is that they're running on skeleton crews. I've been told that the fire and EMS service has 26 open positions currently, and they cannot find experienced paramedics. At times, our fire service has only 1 firefighter for each truck. In comparison to Forsyth County, the same fire truck would be staffed with 4 firefighters. Shockingly, they said that the pace of growth of this county is outright unsafe. In closing, it's obvious that our current infrastructure cannot handle the proposed neighborhood at the corner of Dawson Forest and Highway 9. Approving this development in its current state is a threat to public safety. Like I said earlier, I am for growth, but that change needs to be planned in a way that doesn't affect our way of life and, most importantly, our safety. When considering growth and this development, I ask that you listen to your constituents who have been asking for larger lot sizes and no more cluster homes. I ask that you consider these reasons and deny Mr. King's request for this development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition to the application? Come on up, please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Linda Mahler. Good evening. I live on Goodson Road, and my husband and I had a home built, bought the acreage, moved up here to leave Forsyth County because of the crushing growth. I am speaking on school building capacity, teacher to student ratio, and the bus situation. There is a growing public concern that Dawson County schools do not have the capacity to handle the population growth. The top goal and objective in the 2023 comprehensive plan is managed growth. What is managed growth? Encourage balanced, efficient, and flexible development patterns that support existing residents and manage future growth in a fiscally sustainable manner. Ensure public infrastructure is provided and maintained in a proactive manner, and provide efficient public safety and city services to maintain the health, safety, and welfare of all residents. I had prepared a list, and I literally Googled most of these new communities, but I have a list of 18 communities that are in the zoning phase, the construction phase, and are nearing completion. It equates to 244 new homes. This will definitely impact school capacity, even if there's 1 child in each of these homes. And also I was kind of wondering, does Dawson County Planning and Zoning Department work directly with the Dawson County School Board to make sure that population growth is being managed in relation to the school infrastructure, the ratio of teachers to students, and adequate number of school buses? The 2024-2025 school enrollment for all 7 schools, I have that. Elementary schools have reached 75% capacity, and the middle, junior, and high school have reached 65% capacity. And this literally was an open records, I'm pretty sure, was requested by Dawson News, the Dawson newspaper, which does a fabulous job in tracking all new developments and other information regarding the school. And that is where I have my numbers. But for the current school year, between the 4 elementary schools, there are 738 available open slots remaining for the school buildings of the elementary schools. The middle school, the junior high, and the high school have combined 1,100 open slots for additional students.
Time's up, ma'am. Your time is up.
Oh, it is?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to please come in, sign your name, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Tiffany Georgia. I live at 252 Dawson Manor Drive. Dawson County is a community that loses a bit of the hustle and bustle, and life's enjoyed at a little bit slower pace. Most people reside here because they love and value the outdoors and nature, and they love the small family-style community that Dawson County fosters. We are one Dawson, and our county motto is where quality of life matters. We understand growth, we are for it, but many feel that currently we are not following our current plans to maintain goals and desires for this community and that quality of life. A comprehensive plan outlines a community vision and goals for the projected future and growth. Land use and character areas are just sub-areas of the plan, and their use should still reflect the vision and goals. In reading the 193 pages of the comprehensive plan, it is clear that growth is and would continue to be a major concern. Many excerpts directly from those 193 pages include quotes such as, coordinate transportation and land use decision-making with the community, patterns that provide sustainable growth, manage the demands of projected developments, balance growth, responsibly planned and supported with appropriate infrastructure and services, managing resources responsibly to preserve the quality of life enjoyed in Dawson County, and transportation investments that will need to be coordinated with future development to ensure the transportation system can accommodate the increased demand and facilitate proactive approach to the future. The number one line item under our policies and long-term objectives states balancing growth with improvements to roads, parks, schools, libraries, emergency services, and utilities with proactive planning and concurrency management. We as citizens want safety as a top priority. We want our EMS staffing crisis addressed before continuing the exponential growth. We want to be heard in our cries to stop these mass cluster home developments. We want larger lots, smaller sized communities with the family feel. We want the impact fees raised with more allocation for our roads and EMS. We want to preserve the quaintness of Dawson County and our quality of life. We don't want to be the next Gwinnett County. We know some of you may feel like the county is appropriately balancing growth and infrastructure, but we're here as a community to tell you that we do not feel that to be the case, and we aren't seeing it. We aren't seeing the proactive measures, and a simple poll of constituents speaks loud and clear on what they want here. Their desires are in line with the statements that I quoted directly from the comprehensive plan. Your constituents want a Dawson County where quality of life matters. This rezoning request is not just about a character area. It does not fit the overall vision expressed in our comprehensive plan and desired by the majority of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name's Brandon Eddy. I live on Goodson Road. Okay. I can go over all this. I'll just say ditto to make it quick and simple. But I'm going to try and come to this as a personal approach. I run an in-home daycare, licensed in-home daycare. I know that emergencies have been brought up, but this particular intersection that we're talking about is such a wide expansion that if I were to have an emergency at my home with one of the kids, with the way that's broken down, if an accident were to happen
Am I to expect an EMS truck to ride over the medians through there to get to me? Even with an additional lane, the dangers that it poses with people and their impatience wanting to go in the opposite direction. There's no way for children to walk, sidewalks for them to go. There's ditches on each side of the roadway to walk towards the park, towards the schools, towards any of that. The reality is that when you buy something in real estate, location, location, location is always the most important thing. This location, where it proposes entrances and exits, is so crowded and so jammed that there's just not a feasible way. If we hadn't just rebuilt and put a brand new double roundabout, that'd be one thing. But we just built it and we just put in what is slight infrastructure for our area. Please consider your own family health and well-being when sitting there and wondering, can they get to me? I have 6 children under the age of 5. I worry about that every day. So please look at it from safety, if you would, please. Thank you.
Else? Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Sir, just get me.
Evening. My name is Victoria Davis, and I live in Etowah Preserve. There are just a couple of things that Sabrina pointed on and others, but I really would just like to go back to the schools and sidewalks. We don't have a sidewalk from our neighborhood to Riverview. They are right next to each other and no sidewalk for our children. The roundabout alone, in the mornings, both of them are extremely chaotic and we already have traffic. My daughter does also go to Sabrina's in-home daycare, and that intersection alone, just trying to turn left or right, is extremely dangerous. If we add all these homes that we're trying to get and to reshape our little road right there, it's not enough. Mr. King had said that they were going to add a right outside turn lane to help the other cars. That's not enough. There are too many of us. We already see that in our own neighborhood because the way that it was built. If you have 3 cars, if you have multiple teenage drivers, we don't have enough driveways to put all the cars in. People are parking on the streets. When our neighborhood was built, Dawson County EMS hated us because you couldn't get through our streets because cars are parked everywhere. Cars are an issue and traffic is an issue. And our schools are an issue. We have multiple rental homes, way too many rental homes, and so does Dawson Grove, I've heard at our last meeting. We want the people that are going to stay here for life. We don't need the people who are going to come and leave and disturb this beautiful area. So thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition? Please come up. Give us your name and your address. Sign in, and then you will have 3 minutes.
I'm Michelle Jarrett. I'm a nurse at Northside. I'm also a first responder and have worked with the school system in Gwinnett and watched it grow. Currently, your school system has some available spots, yes, but it's going to get trailers with the continued growth that it's having. It also currently shares middle school and high school kids on the same bus. I don't know how many and what ages your kids are, but that's dangerous in today's society. Not that 25, 30 years ago when I was in high school that was any better, but today kids are just not nice and things are happening when they're not around their parents and they're not observed. And if you've got that many people on a bus in that varying age group, How are you keeping the kids safe? Agreed, it is not necessarily your issue because that should be the Board of Education that should be doing the hiring for schools and for buses and things like that. But your issue is the fact that you don't have enough police in this county. You don't have enough fire in this county. You don't have enough first responders in this county. And on any given day, especially in October, let's just go back to the pumpkin patch. Just to get from over near Etowah, Jenny Slanton, or Highway 9 at the Dollar General, we'll go from an easy place, to get to the pumpkin patch was 45 minutes because those two roundabouts get so congested. So you now have a fire department in a great location to protect a school, but they can't get anywhere because you've got two roundabouts that get so congested, they can't get to where they need to get to. And then an ambulance needs to get somewhere for a heart attack, for a stroke, somebody's going to die. And this is bad. This is not where proactive needs to happen. It's where proactive has to happen. Even if you add a turn lane, and I agree that that's a possibility, it is still not going to reduce the traffic or make the traffic better. The only way to make the traffic better there, if you're going to put this big of a community there, is to make it like you have the traffic circles out in Hilton Head where you have multiple lanes. Do we really want to do that to this area? Probably not. But if we don't get more emergency services and we don't get better school services and we don't increase the infrastructure, we're not going to be Gwinnett County. We are going to be worse. And that's where we're headed.
Thank you. Anyone else here speaking opposition to the application? Come on up. Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I represent the north end of the county.
Name, please.
My name is Kelly Venters. And like I said, I represent the north end of the county. And a lot of where we live, there's a lot more traffic. You know, we obviously get the leaf lookers and all the traffic for the pumpkin farm, and that's it in the certain times of year. But I have my mother that lives in town, and just getting from her house all the way down to 400, what used to be a 10-minute drive, now takes 30 minutes because they're building a gas station. And then you take 136 and they're doing construction for something else. So then you take another road to get to like Black's Mill, and they're doing construction there too. So it now takes 3 times as long to get down there to 400. But my concern is the impact on the sheriff's department. I've been in contact with them, sending emails, and I know that they're stretched right now. I know that they have some staffing shortages. And with that being said, all of the focus is on 400. So anything on the north end of the county gets kind of put by the wayside, even though we've lived there for 17 years. That's where we choose to live, and there's a good reason why. The also is the ratio of sheriff's department employees per capita of population. So you bring in 280 homes and you times that by 2 or 3 or 4 people per household. And so how many more sheriff's department employees do you need to cover that population growth? So I think it's happening way too fast. Our roads, the infrastructure, especially on our roads, you build a new, like the Shoal Creek, you're going to, repave that. And so what happens when you have construction that's driving on these roads and tearing them up even further? So a lot of times that your road projects are all for naught if you have a new road and there are 4 years driving construction equipment tearing up the roads. I've seen it happen in Florida, in Estero County where my brother lives, and they can't get anywhere just because of all the concrete dust. It's covering everything. They can't even go outside because of the amount of construction that's going on there. I'm also concerned is the doctor's offices and the pharmacies. What now? You went to the doctor's office and you waited for an appointment
or a prescription to get refilled or something like that, the more people you bring into the county, the more we have to wait for these basic services that we once enjoyed not having to share with an increased population. So my thing is to put a moratorium on new population growth on homes that are intended for urban sprawl.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. Please sign in. Give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Tom Carey. I live on Goodson Road. It'll be 25 years the first of next month. I hope I'm not on the clock. I'm a
Not yet.
slow writer. Okay, my first point is that Mr. King here in the Planning Commission meeting stated that he would like to have on Goodson Road an emergency entrance. He has not mentioned that. Actually, he said something different tonight. He also mentioned that they proposed to have an entrance on Dawson Forest. Now, if you know where the roundabouts are, and you know Highway 9, steep hills coming down to the roundabouts. People are going to be crossing 2 lanes, and people haul butt down those 2 roads. I don't want to see people getting maimed pulling out of their driveway every day, okay? That's one part of it. Second part, we're going to have, if this is approved, construction people going down Goodson Road right and left. And I understood from somebody recently that I talked to that they're planning on logging this entire property for the density that they've asked for. If they do that, you're just going to have one giant hill that's going to have to be leveled, millions of cubic yards of dirt going to have to be moved, sewer, etc. I don't want that coming through my neighborhood. Now, when it gets to the schools, I don't have any children, but I retired here when I turned 40. And I don't want to see the growth that I left Alpharetta for to come up here 25 years ago. So we need to get a control on all of this development. And I remember him stating that there was a plan that was their planning plan in 1980 that said we wouldn't have density growth out Dawson Forest any more than 1 mile from Georgia 400. We've gone past that now if we approve this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you. Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Hey, my name's Nick LaBarnes, 102 Dispatcher Drive, Dawsonville, Georgia.
All right. Well, I'll piggyback off what he just said because I do have kids and I have young kids. I understand the schools might not be completely full right now, but we've been here the past 4 years. My son goes to Black's Mill. This is the first year where he's got to wait for a second run for the bus to come around. It's actually 25, 30 minutes before he gets home some days. And that's not right. I've actually gone to the school, ended up picking him up while he's standing there waiting in line. And you literally have a whole bus full of kids standing in a line for nearly a half hour while they wait for one bus to go and come back and pick them up. So to touch with fire and EMS not being enough, police not being enough, the school, they may have capacity, but you don't have the buses to supply it or anything. An extra 250 homes, 250, 500 kids. There's no way that's possible without some pre-thought out planning. I like Mr. King's idea about looking ahead and planning ahead. This needs to be done first before you throw more houses on top of it, because it's just a cumulative problem at that point. So I know I'm just reiterating it again, but from my point of the schools, You may have capacity, but you don't have enough teachers and school buses and everything to make this an efficient process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Come on up. Give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ben King. I live at 213 Paddock Place, directly off of Dawson Forest Road. I've been a resident of Dawson for close to 19 years now. 18 of those I've lived directly off of Dawson Forest. Professionally, I've worked as a mortgage lender for the past 10 years, so please understand that I do have some skin in the game here and understand the importance of housing both economically and in our local community. With this background, I will still be petitioning the board tonight to strongly consider denying this request. The increase in traffic has made it difficult to both pull out of my neighborhood most mornings, evenings, and weekends. And as our county continues to grow, I believe that we can be better at both mitigating and meeting this demand. Dawson Forest, in my opinion, is long overdue major upgrades. We now have many neighborhoods along the road that are dangerous to both enter and exit. And all of the developments in the past couple years, only Dawson Grove was required to at least install a center deceleration lane. I'm glad to hear that the planning and development is asking Mr. King to install these lanes for his development, but equally frustrated that this was not a requirement for the current neighborhoods established. As such, this has assisted in Dawson Forest becoming more dangerous and more congested. Further, it's important to point out that there are some neighborhoods along the road that are approved but incomplete. For example, Riley Place still has 16 homes being built. If we were to average 2 cars per home, that adds an additional 32 vehicles on the road. The Oaks at Dawson still has 62 lots that have yet to be built and sold, adding another potential 124 cars. I would further argue that Dawson Forest draws the traffic from home sites built along Highway 9, since it's the shortest path to 400 and shopping. Thunder Ridge, for example, is about to develop an additional 18 lots, and the clearing right next door to that even more. Forgive me, I do not have the stats on that development. Just by these developments mentioned, which are already approved and under construction, we can see potential of another 192 vehicles. EMS services is also another item that I highlighted, but that has been mentioned many times tonight. I will further highlight the firefighter portion of it. 2 engines right now are only staffed with 1 firefighter. Engine 1 and Engine 8 are only 1-manned. Engine 7 and 3 and Quint 2 are only 2-person engines, and 3 is preferred. Engine 6 is supposed to be manned, but due to staffing has been unmanned for over a year. Engine 4 and 5 remain unmanned as our voluntary positions. I'm further encouraged to hear tonight of the board's efforts in helping to staff future employment for our firefighter staff. I want to thank you, the board, for all your hard work, and thank you for hearing the concerns of your citizens tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else here speak in opposition to the application? Anyone? Come on up. Please sign in, give us your name, your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Christy Castleberry. I live at the south end of the county, pretty much on the Dawson-Forsyth County line. This is impacting us as well on that end of the county. I'm trying to pull out of AT Moore, which is pretty much across from Dollar General and that gas station on Highway 9. Taking a left out of there, you're risking your life almost every time. The stop sign's pretty much non-existent. This turned into a yield, because if you don't go at the time that you can go, then you don't go. And you sit there for a very long time. So all of the traffic coming out of the double roundabouts versus coming out of Forsyth County into Dawson County, just kind of, it's very increased over the years. As far as the EMS and response time for our first responders, I also work at a primary care physician office out at 400. And just yesterday, we had a patient go out that we had to get Lumpkin County ambulance out there to get them. And while our first responders sat there and waited on the ambulance for at least 30 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Tristan Brookshire. I live on 535 Red Rider Road, which is right near in the middle of where all of our growth is really happening. Excuse me for my nervousness. Sorry.
It's okay.
I've heard how several other people have mentioned how they moved here to escape their own counties that were overgrown. Me personally, my family's been here for as long as I can remember, for several generations, and me being 18 and looking at my own future, I have considered leaving this county for just being overgrown and it's not the same as it used to be. And I take that into consideration, people that move here. I don't want to have to leave my own home where my family has been for generations. We have farm land, and, well, that's all top. I don't see the direct benefit to the locals of having this house built. And it, if anything, it brings the traffic and the infrastructure, all that needs to be upgraded. And lots of people say that we want to keep our, I guess, a nice little rural town. It's kind of semi-rural now, but if that is truly what we want to get, I understand the improvements of growth, but is the growth we need really having subdivisions everywhere and built? I would like to see how this improves local, which I don't believe it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please sign in, give us your name and your address. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi there. My name is Tori Daniel. My legal name is Ruby Daniel. I live off Dawson Forest. I am a high school teacher in Fulton County. I'm here to speak a little bit on the traffic because I work at a high school that has roads similar to what we see on Dawson Forest, where we're kind of funneling everyone in towards our schools, and the traffic is insane. It's awful for the high school students that are driving and commuting, for the parents, for the kids that are walking to school. It's dangerous at times. I mean, I've seen kids literally riding their bike and skid off their bike into the road. Luckily, no one was there. But when you look at roads like Jones Bridge Road, that's what's happening to Dawson Forest. And it's getting worse. My granny lives at Whitney Place off Dawson Forest. She can't pull out of her road. She doesn't leave her house because she feels so unsafe driving. And I don't think that's fair to our older residents that are here, for them to not be able to get out of their driveway because of the increased traffic and it being so unsafe. I don't feel this is going to benefit our community until we've improved the infrastructure and set things up to be better for the people that already live here before we bring in more people. So, and also we are a bedroom community. So a lot of us commute to work. Most of us don't work here directly. So a lot of us are going down 400. And my commute just in the past year has increased by only 15 minutes. But when you look at my full commute, it went from 45 minutes to an hour. And now the Forsyth County's 369 bridge is being reconstructed. And it's gotten even longer. And that's going to get worse with more residents coming in. We're going to have more people commuting down there because their jobs are still down there. They're just coming up here to live to escape the rest. So that's the only things I wish you for you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. What was their total amount of time Mr. King had asked for an opportunity for rebuttal? 28 minutes. All right, Mr. King, you're up for rebuttal.
I'll only use 27. I would just would like to say, just going back to your land use plan, if you'll look at the overall land use plan, everything north of the Etowah River, with the exception around the city, is very low density. It's rural. Even land to the north part of the county between 400 and Etowah River, much of that is designated as rural. And that's, ever since I can remember, that's been the theme of the land use plan, is to concentrate the growth on the south end of the county and near Highway 9 and near 400, because you're not going to stop the growth. You can't stop the growth. There's going to be growth. You just need to plan for it and put it in the right areas. And that's what the land use plan has done all for 25 years. And this parcel has been designated for more intense growth for 25 years. Having said that, my client, since the planning commission, since I've been having multiple conversations with him, has offered up to look into the potential of a 55 plus community. Now, this is a totally different builder. He has reached out, and he does have someone that expressed some interest in it. So in order to vet this out, though, it's going to take some time. I'm not telling you it's going to be, we can even do a 55 plus. Obviously 55 plus takes pressure off your schools. It also takes pressure off your traffic because the peak times are different. They aren't getting up, going to work and taking their kids to school, so at least most of them. So, but it is a totally different animal. So what I'd like to ask is give us 90 days, maybe to the March meeting, to explore this, vet it out, and see if he can make something work. He has an interest in this, and out of all my clients, this particular one has an interest in this community, always has, and he's always tried to do the best thing. And so anyway, would like to ask you for that. Just table it to the March meeting if possible.
Is that it? Thank you. Okay. All right. It's the pleasure of the board.
My dad's a Baptist preacher, so sometimes I can get winded, so hopefully I get more than 3 minutes. But some of the things that go through my mind as we as a board sit here and hear from citizens like you that have come up and spoke, and from developers, and from what the law states that we can and cannot do. It puts this board and all other boards in Georgia under the same umbrella of the private property laws. And the words that come to mind, and we talk about different things and different aspects of development, but the word balance, I heard that a lot from people. Decisions that we as a board have to make, balancing out multiple different factions in dichotomies, two different points of view. a couple notes on, we have to balance the dichotomy of allowing growth. And we've heard a lot of people acknowledge that you cannot legally stop growth. When I was running for office, I jokingly said, I want to build a wall, make Forsyth County pay for it. That was, the intention was good because, I heard a lot of people that commented tonight. I moved up here to get away from that. I moved up here in 2001 and we all are moving. So we're all creating the same thing that we are fighting against. So there's a few of you that have been here for many, many years. And I'm the problem that I moved in 2001 and created growth. And at that time, you might have been speaking here against the neighborhood I moved into. And so the neighborhoods that have been approved in the past in a balanced measure, a lot of you enjoy living in now. The other balance that we have to take into consideration is managing growth without losing what makes us desirable to begin with. If we were not a community that had low taxes, a good school system, great amenities when it comes to the lake, the mountains, people love coming up here. If we were not a desirable area, we wouldn't have this problem. Nobody would want to move here. I meet with people throughout the state that live in South Georgia and nobody wants to move there. So property values are decreasing. So it's a good problem that we have, that we are in a good, highly desirable area. And so we have to balance that with, there's a tipping point that comes into play. At what point do you become an undesirable area? And I think that as a community, we've seen a lot of residential growth. And I feel like a lot of people that have either been here for a long period of time, generations, and those of us that just moved up here recently, we feel like we're at a tipping point of where things are less desirable. That being said, people are moving away from Alpharetta because it's much less desirable down there. And the final point of balance that we have to make, I would love for y'all to bring your passions back when we set millage rate. Millage rate is how we balance your property taxes and the concerns that you brought up tonight with more revenue to pay for fire and EMS, more revenue to pay for sheriff services, more revenue to pay for roads. That has to come from somewhere. And so we have the balancing act of how do we be fiscally conservative with your tax dollars and at the same time provide a service that's adequate to serve the citizens of Dawson County. So as we look, we're looking, and I say all this just to give you a perspective of what a decision like this looks like inside of our heads, because it's not an easy decision at all. None of the developments, I've been here 8 years, and there's not a single development that I have wanted to come here because I wanted to build the wall, make Forsyth County pay for it because I enjoyed what I had in 2001. But I realized that that is not reality. So where I feel like we're at today is, yes, Jim brings up points that we have a land use plan. The land use plan is designed and developed by citizens. It's designed and developed by planners to come up with an idea that helps us control and manage growth in a way that is ideally forethought and foreplanned. That being said, this particular area is a maximum density of 2 units per acre. I believe, and this is me speaking personally, yes, we may meet the land use plan. It may be legal, and we